robotics are coming. 99% of all the shit that people are trying to do right now to start a business is going to be completely destroyed by AI. It is going to, like, if you're trying to build a company that's simple, it's not like it used to be where, like, yeah, simplicity is not going to work in the next like 5 years. It's just going to be a thing. And even the AI companies are making like software and stuff. If you are making, you have to be ahead of the large language models. So you can't one shot your idea.
Hello and welcome to AutoIntel Podcast, the show where we dive deep into the challenges and opportunities shaping the world of engineering and software. Each episode, we sit down with business leaders, CEOs, and founders to uncover the strategies, insights, and technologies driving the growth and transformation in today's digital economy. Our today's guest is Stephen Moore, who is the CEO and co-founder of NextGen Engineering and Research Development, which they also call it NERD. Hi, Stephen. How are
How you
you?
doing, sir?
Good. Thank you for being on the show.
Pleasure's mine. Pleasure's mine.
Right. Can you tell us, Stephen, to start with, can you tell us a little bit about your journey and what inspired you to start NextGen R&D?
Yeah, absolutely. So actually, funny enough, I never did not intend to start a business. Yeah, this is now, I guess, my third startup, but ever since I was a kid, I've been around entrepreneurial type folk. So I remember, I think what really shaped my willingness to even start another business is, I guess I was 12 and I had a neighbor that moved in across the street from my house. His name was Mr. Dave House. And he had a small company, he just started up himself, a company called Budget Bath, which is a bath remodeling company in Baltimore, Maryland, which is where I am. I saw this fella start this company from him himself in a Isuzu Trooper from like 1987 that he drove around in. And he was a really, really solid work ethic. And one day he walked over across the street, me and my dad were doing something in the yard. And he goes, hey, Tim, your boy's kind of lazy. You should come work with me in the summer times. And my dad looked at him, he looked at me, looked at him, and he goes, you know what, Dave? You're right. Steve, you have a job. And I said, what? And I spent the summers, watching, and from the age of like 12 to about 17, watching this guy build a remodeling company from one person himself to 12 full-time employees, doing really well within the span of about 5 years. And I got to see like every step of the way, how he did sales, how he did marketing, how he, managed construction folk, which could be a challenge in some ways. And then how he interacted with customers and the difference between, interacting with, your team and interacting with customers, and how like the sales process worked. And that kind of stuck with me. I was like the formative years, as they say. And then, I started my first company when I was, I guess, 18 or 19. I started a marketing firm and I was able to grow that to about 7 full-time people by the time I was about 23. And then my second startup was in the tech space, doing gamification of the acquisition of both physical and mental fitness. Big fitness guy. I've trained some professional fighters in my life as a hobby. I have trained performing strongmen, a lot of really interesting people. And I over the last 35 years of my life, I kind of always had a slightly different mentality when it comes to trying new things. Most folks, when they're approached with a new thing, they're like, hey, want to try this thing? Well, generally speaking, they go, their initial instinct is, no, I do not want to try a new thing. And they have to be convinced to try it. I'm a little bit different because if someone says, hey, Steve, want to try this new thing? My immediate response is, absolutely, let's do it. And then I have to convince not to do it because it might kill me or a detrimental effect. So that's just kind of like one of my personal philosophies that I like to live by. So I worked, I guess, in the last 5 years or so, a lot in the telecom space, the energy space, and 2 companies approached me. Actually, there's a few companies, 5 companies approached me, relatively large ones. And the company I was working for, which will remain nameless, they said, Steve, we really like you. Maybe not so hot on the company you work for. Go start your own thing and we'll hire you immediately. Now, these companies, ExxonMobil, that's what folks at Mitsubishi Heavy Industries, a company called Lippert, and a few other ones. These are all Fortune 1000s and up. When a group of them come to you and say, start your own company, what else are you going to do?
Yeah.
I had some ideas on like how to really innovate in a space that's mostly marked by, stagnation. The energy space, not so much, because like the cell level, if you're talking like batteries, so we do a lot of work in the like stationary mobile battery energy storage space. We actually have a patent pending mobile system that we call LandLink, which is completely different than any other mobile system on the market today. So we were talking about that with Exxon for like disaster recovery scenarios. I can get into that a little bit more in a bit. That's kind of how it started. I had some good ideas that I was working with on, with all these different companies, and they're like, dude, you really got to just go start your own thing.
Yeah, yeah, very interesting. So, I mean, you just briefly touched upon the type of clients you work with. Like, what are some of your major clients you work with, and what kind of projects do you generally like be involved usually?
Yeah. So without breaking any NDAs, so make sure I'm not
Yeah,
expressing a lot express. We work with ExxonMobil. It's probably we have our biggest project with, which is LandLink. We developed this mobile system for disaster recovery scenarios that is pretty nifty. Which, kind of to break it down quickly, it's a combination of mobile batteries. It ranges. We have three sizes, from a 72 kilowatt hour system all the way to a half of a megawatt hour system on a 40-foot long trailer, and then paired with that is a new kind of energy distribution system. So I don't know, most folks haven't heard of Class 4 power, but Class 4 power was just codified in the 2023 NEC guidelines. It is a safe methodology of transmitting high voltages over long distances. So basically, you're taking like a little cable like this, 18 gauge twisted pair. And this isn't twisted pair, this is single, but you're able to run 1,500 watts at 380 volts DC over tiny little cables in a way that's inherently safe. You could take these live wires, stick them in your mouth, and it shuts off.
Oh,
And because of that, you don't need conduit. You don't need electricians who run it. You don't need any of the things that, generally speaking, are necessary for most high voltage deployments. So, of course, the word high voltage is also very subjective. Some people call 380 volts like low voltage, like that, the energy space. But if you're in the telecom space, that's like super high voltage.
yeah.
Fun. Gotta love nomenclature. Because of this technology, there's only a handful of companies that have product in the market. Now, Volt Server is the name of the company that we represent. They're one of our partners, one of our best partners, and they're the ones who invented Class 4 or fault managed power. So we take their product and then we integrate it into different things that we're working on. So we've invented some cool stuff, but one of the things we have, like for the mobile system, we took that, we put it on these mobile systems, and actually we have a cable deployment system, a robotic on a gantry. So it's basically a robotic crane that'll pick up a 2-foot reel of cable, drop it on the back of a 4-wheeler, and they run the cable out there in the middle after disaster scenario. So everything's encapsulated. You have your actually power generation, either via solar or genset, diesel, or whatever you want to do, or a hydrogen fuel cell. Goes to the batteries. All that stuff goes to the power distribution system, and then that runs out your power to up to 2 kilometers away. So on
So
the big
you
train,
kind of have a mobile system of lots of batteries which can be transported to a place where they can use that for power generation.
yep,
Right.
and yep. So it can be airlifted in, it can be helicoptered in, it can be towed in, it can be. It's designed to be very, very robust. I'm
And
hoping
it's very
to.
safe to transport as well with the
Yep.
technology you have.
Especially if we use graphene ultracapacitors. So that's one of the things that we're investigating as a replacement for like lithium iron phosphate or lithium manganese, LMFP, which is the manganese iron phosphate, is using graphene ultracapacitors because they, especially the next generation, have a very high energy density. They are inherently safe. They have a UL exemption. So you literally don't even have to have UL approval for the dang things. You could drop them out of a plane. You can sleep on top of them. You can, put your baby to bed on top of the things and no problem. There's no risk of thermal runaway. There's no risk of any kind of, hazardous
Like
anything.
the lithium-ion batteries, which are one of the most energy density batteries out there. They're not
Yes.
that safe, right, to transfer. Like, yeah, they have a lot of thermal runaways, and it's very tricky to use
Yeah.
them as, yeah.
Yeah. Graphene ultracaps, none of those issues. And you can like discharge and charge them up like almost instantly. So you can, discharge them like 12 times a day. And the what's really nifty, I don't know how nerdy your audience is, but here we go. What's really nifty is you can get up to 200,000 charge cycles on graphene ultracaps without any degradation or almost any degradation of the actual energy density or
Wow.
capacity.
So 2,000 times a day.
100,000 cycles. So you can charge and discharge a dozen, 2 dozen, whatever times a day without any issue. So the total cost of ownership for one of these, an ultracap system, you're talking a order of magnitude less than your LFP, which is pretty nifty. And it's safe and light, which is cool. So we're investigating incorporating those as a replacement for LFP. And then so that's the basis, right? That was the beginning. Now, as we were going through the development process, it kind of grew on us, because since you have 2-kilometer runs of power, you also need connectivity. Almost anywhere where you have power, you're going to need connectivity. So what we did is we actually incorporated fiber optic into the cable as well. So not only do you have power distribution, you have network distribution all in one cable run.
Wow.
And because
Okay.
And because you have that, then what do you need? Compute. Every time there's connectivity, you need compute. So we now have a mobile battery energy storage system. So you have power storage, power generation, connectivity, and we have compute all in one integrated system. So then what?
Is that only only for Exxon Mobil, or you have other clients using that as well? Or?
We are in talks with numerous folk in the rail industry, in agriculture, in military, in a lot of different places. And then the last part of the system is, once you have all that stuff kind of going together, what else do you need? You need backhaul. If you have compute and network connectivity, you need to be able to communicate and get this to to your system. So we actually invented a private 5G mesh system, self-organizing. So we can create, it's really funny. All this is like gradual. We're like, oh, wait. So we have really long distances for cable, all the fiber optic. The guys are working in the field and need a way to communicate with the trailer. Well, can't use Wi-Fi. It doesn't go 2 kilometers. That's not good enough. So we ended up on private cellular. So then with private cellular, I don't know if you're familiar with private wireless or anything about that.
A lot now.
So private wireless, working on the basically 3,500 megahertz spectrum of the cellular network, right? But you own the network. So it's not from T-Mobile, not from Verizon. It is Steve Moore, Cellular Incorporated. It's for public use, just like Wi-Fi is in the public spectrum. Private cellular, same thing, same technology. So you're able to get way longer distances with high throughput using cellular technology, just like the carriers use. Now, we also, since we had that, because you want to have like a tablet, the guys could work, do all their testing and whatever else they're doing. You needed a backhaul system. So we work with a company called Comba Telecom, COMBA. They're like the largest manufacturer of base station antennas on the planet. And they actually have a system. Actually, I have it right here. They have this thing. It's called the Wave. Now, originally it was made for the yachting industry, but the yachting industry hasn't really picked up on it yet. It's a relatively new product, but what this is there's a tri-sector antenna in there, and there's 2 cell modems, and it's the same technology they use in cell towers, but in that little thing. So that can actually create a directional beam of connectivity that'll go up to 20 to 30 kilometers away. Some studies say up to 40, depending on how the down tilt and the power of the actual cell tower it's receiving and talking to is from. But you're talking 20 to 30 kilometers. So you have a private wireless system, you have that backhaul system, and that thing can do 2 gigabytes a second at like 20 kilometers.
Wow.
And it can do multiple WAN.
So this is quite useful, like in very remote areas, right? Like applications where there's no connectivity, there's no power, there's nothing, if military needs it, or in disasters, where there's no energy, where it can be so useful there, right? This technology then.
Exactly. So we had the private cellular and the public cellular, and the public cellular could do multiple. So it can actually communicate over 2 independent networks at the same time, combine the streams, goes to your all your network apparatus. So because we have the private cellular and the public cellular and multiple different WAN points with some tricky software routing stuff, we've invented a private wireless mesh system, fully duplexed. So you're able to communicate from trailer to trailer to trailer to trailer to trailer up to 20 to 30 kilometers away from each other, and then create a mesh of pockets of private cellular connectivity, which is the first of its kind that I'm aware of in the world.
Right. So apart from this battery storage and telecom technologies you have, do you have other projects do you deal in with, or is it mainly this is your kind of expertise and you are into?
There's a lot.
All right.
There's a lot. Yeah.
So a lot more other areas where you have, your businesses in.
Yep. So we do a lot in advanced materials. So we work a lot with graphene. So we are connected with a company called Norcross Ventures and some interesting folk that are the first to be able to produce pure graphene at scale at a cost that isn't ridiculous. We're talking $60,000 a ton for like 99.9% pure graphene, and the granule size, everything being like consistent, high quality. You don't really use that much graphene when you're making stuff. Like, you're not actually using like a graphene chunk. You're putting in like parts per million or something like that, or like 0.1% in like concrete or in copper for like, enhanced connectivity or impedance at like higher temperatures. You're talking very tiny amounts. $50,000, $60,000 a ton at scale. That's dirt cheap, for making your products and just way more robust from the strength, the abrasion resistance, whatever. Work with amorphous alloys, so which is quite a bit different than I don't know if you're familiar with amorphous alloys, but they're like the ceramic equivalent of metal. So there's a brand called Liquid Metal that we represent, and they have a zirconium-based alloy that is stronger than titanium and has some really interesting material properties. It's like it's actually harder than titanium as well. I think it's harder than carbide, but it also has a 1.6% like ability to flex. So it's super springy, but also super hard and super strong. And some of the other material properties, like there's like no hysteresis in the material. So you can leave it bent, just keep it bent for decades. They're actually using gravitational wave detectors. And if you remove the weight, it goes back to exactly where it was formed at with zero deformation for decades of underload.
So
Isn't that
you
cool?
you kind of what's the applications that you said? Do you work with some companies who provide graphene, or do
Yeah.
you source them? Right. Okay.
Yeah. So I work with a company that manufactures it, and we look for interesting ways to incorporate it. So what we are is, if I had to describe NextGen, it's engineering firm, manufacturer's rep firm. So when we find really interesting or disruptive technologies, we'll bring them on and we'll represent their brands. And then a smattering of think tank. So companies come to us with hard problems. When I talk to somebody, I don't generally talk to a customer and go, yeah, what's like the low hanging fruit? Give me the stuff that's easy off the shelf. I can sell you some widget. You're like, sell you. What's a I want to sell you that. That's not my jam. That's not what it is. For us, and for me in particular, I say, give me the problem that everyone else is fucked up. Give me the thing that everyone else is struggling to actually, effectively solve. Give me that problem. And that's kind of
That
where,
that makes your juices flowing, right? Yeah, that's where is your kind of expertise. You don't want to do the simple stuff. That's
yeah, yeah. Because, you're competing in a market when you're doing the simple stuff, where everyone's flooded. It becomes commoditized. But there's always a market for premium, and there's always a market for people that can actually solve a problem. Always. So if you're focusing on building a little widget, you're going to be competing with 800 million other people that are building a similar widget. That goes to stay for software as well. We one of the things that I do well is I connect people with people. So the way that our company works, we call it the Nerd Ranch. It's kind of a little fun nomenclature, but we have a partner network of probably like 70 to 80 different like heavy hitters around the globe that can solve many, many, many problems. So if you're looking for, interesting constraints on power or something, or you're trying to make a transformer for a jet plane for for the military, we have folks that can help you do that and do it well. So like we work with a company called PacTran or Pacific Transformer. They're like 90% of their business is R&D. So they're all about, okay, there's a weird constraint and how they have to have a certain impedance level, or like there's a weird shielding issue. Like you can't have a transformer that radiates too much EMF because it's sitting next to the controls panel of a F-21 or a F whatever. F-21. It's not even a plane, is it? What is it? F-22. Sorry, F-22. And it's sitting right next to the controls panel or like some sensitive equipment, so it can't be radiating out like EMF. So you need to like figure out a way to make that not happen. Those kind of things. So we have folks for that. We have lots of PhDs of all sizes, shapes, varieties. If you need a battery that, has to do a certain kind of thing in a certain weird environment, a lot of like vibrations, or, you have to be able to drop it out of the back of an airplane, whatever it is that you're trying to accomplish that everyone else is jacked up or not be able to do particularly effectively. That's like kind of the place where I enjoy playing. And actually it's where the majority of the stuff is playing, which is kind of fun. And then when I see a real opening, like a real interesting opening in the marketplace, I will actually invent a thing and then patent it. And then what I like to do as a business model is we don't charge royalties on using our patent, as long as you go to our folks to manufacture or procure a majority of the stuff. So like the mobile system, we're not going direct to market with the mobile system. We have numerous partners that will put their name on the side of the box and also front the, millions of dollars to, make the thing up front and have like the name behind it to, to make everyone feel all comfy. So it's still our tech, but all the stuff on the inside, all the design, everything comes from us.
Wow. So, I mean, that's really interesting, all the stuff. Like, you have got so many contacts, so many places. So, I mean, just was wondering, how do most of your clients like find you? Like, is it just through contacts you have built throughout
Street
your
cred.
career? Like, and everyone knows you. Like, how do they come and like approach you? Like, I've got this problem. How do they find you?
Yeah. So recently it's been some speaking engagements. So I just spoke at C38, which is the freight rail conference or the freight rail regulatory body. So it's committee 38. It's their power committee at the ARIMA conference in Indianapolis. Just happened a couple weeks ago. So I was invited to speak on my mobile system. So I went out there, I talked a lot about it. And then I guess I'm an interesting fella to listen to because I'm kind of boisterous. And I was hunted down by CSX and some other folks that we were starting some conversations with. And we're going to be getting into some of their hard problems, which I can't talk about. But
I imagine, like, after the conference, a lot of people might have contacted you about their problems. Like, Steve,
Yep.
Can you help us solve this?
Pretty much something like that. And then again, I'm all about human relationships, right? So it's one thing to try to like, go out and try to like door knock. I've done sales forever. Since I was 16, I've been selling something. Door knocking sucks. It's always sucked. Knowing somebody that knows somebody, that is the best way to create, real business. And so when I was in distribution, and actually there's another product we're developing, it's something called Symbiogen, which is a software system that solves a unique problem. And when I was in distribution, one of the things that I picked up on is the power of a referral. I do a pretty good job. I understand problems. I'm able to, negotiate and things. And there was a customer of mine. It's really funny. I'm like, dude, I know you buy more stuff than what you're buying for me. I know you're buying like Westel, Comba, all these different things. And you're only buying like cell boosters from me. Why aren't you buying the other stuff? And he goes, Steve, you don't fuck up. Your pricing's better. You're always, trying to help me out and, solve problems. But the companies that I buy that other stuff from, they give me leads. They give me opportunities. Now, I only close one out of every 20 of them. Most of them suck. But the one that I close makes up for all their fuck ups, all their bad pricing, all of their bad late deliveries. It makes up for all of that. So I will not be buying that stuff from you unless you start giving me leads and start giving me opportunities. I'm like,
Mm.
that stuck with me. And there's a couple other things that, I did a pretty good job when I was in distribution. Like when I started working at a company called Tesco, I grew my account base something like 180% in a year. With the same accounts, when I first started.
Very interesting. I mean, yeah, if you move on from that business side of things, I wanted to ask you, what is one of the key challenges right now you face in terms of growing your business? Like, what is your main pain point where you are today, which is stopping you to grow to where you want to be?
Ooh, main pain point? What's my day as pain points? Like, that's business. Like,
If you have to pick one of the biggest problems you think is, like, people say, like, if it's the biggest problem, you solve that. Don't go solving smaller problems, right? If you can solve your one biggest problem, you will just, avoid that bottleneck that's stopping you. Like, just open the gates, right, to
you're asking about
scale
the
the
lead
business.
domino. What's the lead domino? If I solved it, everything else would fall behind.
Exactly. That's my question.
All right. So the lead domino, we're, as a startup, Simon Sinek, they talk about from 0 to 1. I think that was his book.
Simon Sinek. Right.
Yeah, I think it was him. 0 to 1. Was that Simon Sinek? Whoever it was.
I don't know.
Nope, Peter Thiel. I was wrong. So the hardest part about starting a business is going from 0 to 1. From a conceptual idea to the first launch, the first customers, getting rolling. Now, that concept can be applied to a lot of things. It's another good mental model. Right now, it is probably that the stuff that I do is expensive. All of our projects take years to get rolling. It's not like, software where once you write it, you can ship, crappy code, you can beta test, whatever. You can fix it on the fly. You can do like agile development. You can be like, oh, that feature isn't all the way ready yet, but the rest of them are pretty close. So you can launch it to a customer, you can start getting some revenue in, if if it kind of like breaks a little bit, as long like that feature, most people aren't going to use that. So I'll kind of leave it kind of shitty over here for a while until we get around to fix it. Or somebody calls and says, hey, there's a bug. Oh, sorry, there's a bug. Everyone's used to bugs in software. Our stuff, most of it's not like that. So, we've closed a bunch of business and we're not getting paid on until like the end of next year. So
do they not pay you like in advance or something, like when you start the project?
A lot of times, the way that our business model is set up, right, as a manufacturer's rep firm for a lot of stuff. So a little more about the business model. We actually, a lot of the money that we get, a lot of the reward comes from the OEMs we work with, right? So what we do is we spread out the cost of doing business with us amongst a larger group of people. So it's less capital intensive on like the end user. So a lot of engineering firms, they're charging like $200, $300 an hour, right? Sometimes a lot more, depending on what you're playing around with. The reason why they're doing that is because that's their only source of revenue is coming from the end user. We kind of flip that up a bit. So what we do, our engineering consulting time is like $50 an hour because, and of course you have to, buy the prescribed stuff. If you're just, regular consulting and there's no project that's being developed, then you're just talking $200 to $300 an hour. Say for a SCADA system we're designing for a solar farm, we'll charge like $50 an hour to design the SCADA system as long as you buy from the folks that we represent, because we'll get a commission from the OEM, we'll get a commission from the distributor, we'll get a commission from the integrator. We take small commissions, a couple points here, but it builds up over like the entirety of the pipeline. So, and we're upfront about that. So we're not necessarily double dipping, but we are 3% to 7% from the OEM, another 3% from the disty, another 3 to 5% from the integrator, and then we take a small amount of money up front from the customer. So nobody is paying a shit ton of money. It's being spread across the entire procurement pipeline.
Right. So then, that gets spread a lot. Like, so the customer is not paying up front so much because, the other vendors in between do end up giving, you as well. Right. But then at the end of the project, you get the main.
Yeah.
Whatever right. And then you could use that, once you have finished the project, you can use that funds to, go on to the next project and then you keep going on.
Yep. That's why we're able to have like 250 projects going on simultaneously, which is literally, we have like a $1.2 billion pipe. Yeah.
So, what was the challenge you faced? Like, is it the revenue which you receive at the end of the project, or what's the challenge you?
So there's two parts of the challenge. The first one is cash flow, right? Because a lot of our receivables are like months or years out. Actually, one of the projects we might be closing in I guess December, if it does close, it looks like it is about $70 million. We won't get paid on that for like 2 years. It'll make like 3%. So like that kind of thing.
Big amount, right? Still a big amount. Yeah.
Yes, a big amount
of 70 million. Yeah.
The best system that closes, we're talking the first prototype unit, once they sign the check, which is also going to be happening soon, which is super exciting. It's going to be 12 weeks before the first prototype unit is at their door. And then they have to test that out. And that could take an entire year. But then this is for Exxon. Exxon's looking at 600 units at between $250,000 and $2 million a piece for just one subsidiary.
600 units for like 2 million. Yeah.
One subsidiary.
Just one subsidiary.
Yeah, of Exxon. Because it replaces their mobile gensets, their mobile batteries, their mobile cell towers, their mobile lighting systems. It replaces all of that in one device.
Big integrated system, right? Yeah.
One integrated system. No one-trick ponies. It's almost like, you're moving away from like the slap chop, or the apple core slicer peeler in your kitchen that you use once a year, when the holidays roll around, you're making apple pie. Those things suck. You don't like that. I don't like those. No one's ever really liked those. You have a bunch of assets sitting in a parking lot most of the year, not being used. Utilized assets are just costing you money in storage and everything else. So if you move over to an integrated system like ours, you can basically get rid of the other stuff or, gradually, decommission them at the end of their life. And then you have a much smaller fleet of multi-use assets that could stay in circulation.
It's a win-win. Win-win for the companies, right? Then, yeah.
It's a win-win. So, and we've been talking with them. We designed it with them So they actually gave us the problem they're trying to solve. And that's the solution popped out at the other end. Yeah, so that's the hard problem is going from 0 to 1. Though we're actually not doing too bad. That's why I have investors. Investors are very
You
happy.
got investors as well.
Yeah. Yeah, we have
Right.
we're private equity backed.
So do you just get investments like it's a one-time thing, or like do they keep investing in you, or when you
So
are raising money? Yeah.
we raised like $100,000 like pre-seed capital. So we haven't done like a Series A or anything. So it was really easy actually. It was actually pretty easy to do. So yeah, we raised that. And then it looks like we probably won't have to raise anymore because we have closed business. So we're just waiting on the receivables start coming in around like January or so. So it looks like we'll be fine. But yeah, as long as you stay in contact with your investors and update them on what's happening in real time as you go along, then you're a lot more likely to actually, keep investing. But yeah, there's money on the table for our investors, if we need it. But that's probably
Do you then give them the share of the company, or do you like give them the money back after a period of time? Say, okay, now we're good.
We're buying into equity. And there's no loan. This is a straight investment. We got rid of I don't know, something like 3% of the company, something like that, maybe. Yeah. So valuations were kind of hard to figure out. Like when you first sort of start up, like how do you value it? It's like,
how do you value? Yeah, it's really tricky, right? Yeah. How do you value if you've just got no like hard assets or anything? Like it's all intellectual property. How do you value that intellectual property?
Yeah, exactly. So that was kind of like throwing mud at the wall in the beginning. Just like, we're valuing ourselves at $3 million. Why? And it worked. Yeah, we kind of gave them like what we're working on, and the other stuff that we're working on. Some of the other things that once I file the provisional, I can tell you more about.
I want to briefly touch upon what are your visions and growth plans for the next 6 to 12 months. Where do you want to take next gen R&D in
here's
years time?
Yep, here's where we're going. So as we're continuing, the big things are getting the 4 different systems that we're developing into the open marketplace. That is like the first one. So Symbiogen being one, and then the mobile system is another. Mobile system starting to pick up now. I'm doing national conferences and speaking about that. So that would be the second one.
But that's almost ready, right? Which is already working system.
That's ready. Mobile system,
and you're talking to multiple businesses to show your technology.
A whole bunch of them. Yep. So that one's done. Symbiogen is close to being done. Yeah, that one's like 33 different agents. Actually, not 33. It's 33 Langgraph compiled graphs of agents. And then
it's a complex system then, yeah.
Very 1.3 million lines of code I've written in the last 6 months. And also, so all this stuff, it's all me. So Brock, my partner, he's our CFO and our electrical engineer. And he developed the time domain reflectometry system for the mobile system for Exxon. But I pretty much have invented everything else. So I've written all the code. I've designed this entire mobile system from the ground up. I have developed the enclosure system, the antennas, the motor, which is going to be even wilder. Whenever that comes around. And the motor, potentially looking at torque densities of 180 Newton meters per kilogram. Yeah. So that's it. So the next year is going to be getting these 4 things out. Getting the mobile system out to actually being produced for customers, and then scaling. We're looking at once things are rolling, the idea is to do a combination of growing the Nerd Ranch, so mostly partner network stuff, and then bringing on studs. We want to bring on people that are highly capable in divergent thinking, being able to not just see what's in front of them, but take the blinders off a little bit and start investigating bringing in other technologies from other industries. Because that's another thing that happens in most of these old stale industries, like the freight rail world or, oil and gas or whatever. They have their network of people that they're oil and gas guys or they're rail guys. And so they only know the rail world. So they have the same set of solutions for the same problems over and over and over again. But you know what? A lot of the time you can leverage the ideas of many other industries to solve problems in what you consider disparate, fields. But you have to have, the ability to think divergently to do that. So people that have the ability to think really well, people that can understand that they're stupid, like me. I'm stupid. The more I learn, the more I realize I'm a dumbass. Having like that humility of like understanding that you don't know shit about shit, and the more you know, the more you realize you don't know. Those are the kind of folk that we're looking to pick up over the next year or so. I kind of see myself, I see the business as more of a structured more like a law firm, hopefully in the next like few years, not so much as like an employee employer relationship with people, but I'm a big fan of
Partners.
democracy, I guess. Yeah. I don't
So,
care
I
about,
mean, yeah, like in law firm, you have like partners and stuff, right? Yeah,
yeah,
where everyone is working,
yeah,
just not just like at a company, just get salary. They're working like this their own, and they want to, grow it and grow it, and then
yeah.
that's how you are, right? Yeah,
That's kind of the vision is to create almost like an engineering law firm, like a
very interesting idea.
because yeah, I don't need any glory. I don't really care about like that kind of stuff. I mean, I don't want to be Steve Jobs. Yeah, whatever. I just want to build more shit. I could live in a car if I lived in a cardboard box and had like food handed to me, and all I could do, but I had a laboratory I could play in all day. I win.
Right.
That's me.
So, I mean, yeah. Steve, so, I mean, to wrap up, like, yeah, what's one piece of advice you would like to give to our audience who's looking to scale their business and, who are kind of the audience we speak to are other founders and stuff. So we want to
Oh,
know what's one advice you would want to give to them to grow their business?
one advice. If there was to be one advice, one piece of advice, don't try to solve an easy problem. Don't try to solve an easy problem. Go try to solve a problem that nobody else can solve, that everyone else is fucked up solving. Because
And you learn a
especially,
lot, when even if it's an impossible problem you're trying to solve, you just are doing it, you learn so much. And in the end, you might build something, right? Yeah. Even if
yeah,
it's,
and I
difficult
think,
problem to solve.
and there's something else to that too. Like when you're solving a hard, there's like a warning actually. There's a warning that I want to throw in there too. Is AI is coming, robotics are coming. 99% of all the shit that people are trying to do right now to start a business is going to be completely destroyed by AI. It is going like if you're trying to build if you're trying to build a company that's simple, it's not like it used to be where like yeah, simplicity is not going to work in the next like 5 years. If you're trying to make a freaking hamburger hut like a McDonald's, or something like that, where you're doing something that is not particularly difficult to do. An AI company or the companies that are actually already making hamburgers, they're going to replace everything with robots and AI, and they're just going to eat your lunch. It's just going to be a thing. And even the AI companies are making like software and stuff. If you are making, you have to be ahead of the large language models, so you can't one shot your idea. That's kind of the thing. If you can't like iterate or vibe code the idea that you have and like say like Gemini 3 is coming out probably in the 10 days or something. They word on the street. This next generation of AI models will be able to one shot probably 80% of the applications that are being put out by people that are generating AI slop. Most of it is so simple. There's like a couple of like maybe two or three different agents working on a simple workflow, like a loop pattern or a parallel or sequential, whatever it is.
Yeah. I mean, yeah. Another thing, yeah, I want to just, put up there. Where can our audience find you?
Yeah.
Where if they want to look up for you, and where can they?
Yeah. Nextgenrd.com is one. So nextgenrd.com, or you can find us on LinkedIn, or shoot, just you post my phone number on there. I don't care.
Thanks a lot, Steve. Yeah, that was really, really insightful. No, I mean, yeah, that was some really good insights. I mean, I learned a lot, so I'm really thankful to you for being on the show.